Hello.
Hi
Hi.
there. Hey, can you hear me?
I
Hello,
can hear you.
yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yes. And if we can't, always have audio issues in the beginning, so
Oh,
it
perfect.
would feel
Okay. Yeah, I always do too. So
oh, that's good. How are you? You're in Canada, correct?
I am. Yeah. Yeah. I'm only an hour behind though. So yeah,
Okay,
it's
well
good.
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's
Are
good.
you in
Yeah.
Toronto? Are you in?
I'm in Alberta, so it's I think west of yeah
Yes, yeah.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm
So
excited for
you're
this.
not too worried about the presidential debate tonight. We were.
Oh, is that happening tonight? Oh,
It is.
yes. So
But
I
we
was
are this
actually in
is
Toronto
right.
yesterday, and yeah, yeah.
This is where we would
That's
rather
what
be
Oh, thank
rather
you.
than watching that, for sure.
I'm
Much
admiring your
more
Yeah,
fun.
plants. I saw that you're a plant mother.
I am a plant mom, but we have a like an orchid disease in the house right now, so a bunch
Oh,
of them are in the basement getting sprayed and sort of separated from everyone. But yeah, hopefully
oh,
we can
I
save them.
I think I just watched literally about 2 hours worth of orchid videos. This is my new passion.
You do think, yeah, it's just like once you're addicted, it's like the collection grows, and so I'm really hoping we can save them because you
Yes,
know,
that would be really,
yeah.
really sad.
Oh yeah,
That's so
yeah.
fun.
I see
We ha oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Oh, and you have your cat, Elizabeth. I
Yes,
love it.
Yeah, it's so
Judith
cute.
wanted to be a part of it.
It's so picturesque. Like you could tell me that was a green screen because I know I've been to your house, so I know that's your home, but it looks like so picturesque.
Yes,
It
we
does.
had water damage, so we've got big fans going. A restoration company came today, so I had to move to a different location. So,
Sorry to hear that.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, it's fine. I'm getting a new cabinet, so it's all
Oh,
good.
oh, that is good. Yeah.
That-
Yes.
That's awesome. We have a few people already on. So if you're already on, you would like to be to go to the chat and tell us where you're from. We have what's so great, Natalie, is we have so many people that join this book club from all over the US and Canada and
Oh, thank you so much,
Australia
everyone. Oh, wow, that
too.
is great.
So
Thank you so much.
yes.
I'm honored.
Yes. Well, I'm so excited. I absolutely loved this book so much. I was just like, we have to do this one. It's just so great.
Well,
And I'm so
that's
excited to talk to you
You
about
want
it.
to talk
thank
about
you
our
so
Freaky Friday, Allison?
Oh, yes. Usually what happens is
much.
that Elizabeth has read the book months before as an arc, and then I will read it literally 3 days before we do an interview. And so it's very fresh on my mind. And I'm able to like say, what about this character? What about this character? And Elizabeth's like, yeah, I
Yeah,
have to remember what's happening in the book again.
what's
It
that
was so
guy's
long ago.
name? But it works because I
Yes.
find the books, we get them scheduled, and then
Yes.
Allison, it works out well. But Allison was the one who found your book, and I got to read it yesterday. I read it yesterday morning. I couldn't put it
Oh,
down,
wow. Oh, thank you
so
so
I feel
much.
really hyper prepared.
Yes,
Oh, that's
she
cool.
will. I mean, I know the characters, but in case I get a little stuck, it's fresh on her mind for
Very
sure.
fresh.
So we were saying it was a Freaky Friday moment where we switch places.
That's that's awesome. I was just thinking about this the other day, and I think it's been like a over a year since I've read the full book. So
Wow.
you're fresher than I am.
You're
Oh
Yeah.
like,
my
who
goodness.
was that? What, I didn't even,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
hilarious.
And
That
sometimes I'm
would
like,
be like my biggest
I
fear as
can't,
an author
right? Yeah,
is
like
to
because I can't
forget.
remember, like someone brought up something and I was like, I thought I had cut that, but I'm glad to hear that it's in. Like I'm glad because I like that line, but
That's
I
hilarious.
could have sworn I had cut it. But yeah, so it's just it's funny how like
That is so,
after the rounds of edits, yeah.
yes. You kind of miss what's actually landed in the book. I totally understand that. Well, one thing, I mean, we can this is a question I hadn't prepared, but I just had thought about it, was I saw that the book cover was sometimes in blue and green and sometimes in
Mm.
pink and orange. Was there like a Canadian version and a US, or was
That
how
was
did, because we had a
so
customer that came in looking for the blue and green one and couldn't find the book
yeah.
anywhere, asked a bookseller, and she's like, oh, here it is. And she's like, oh, I didn't know it was in that color. So
Yeah,
anyways.
so that was a special edition done via LitJoy Crate, and I think that they
Oh, okay.
sort of I think they worked with the designer at my publisher, but they liked the cover, but they wanted to try to do a different color scape. So that was really fun to work with them.
Interesting.
At one point, I think we had like a red and blue, and we had all really liked it. And then so I don't know, someone realized it looked like Superman, and then we couldn't unsee it. So we ended up with like the
Really
blue and
funny.
green, and it worked out. I like that a lot more. So in the end, so yeah.
That's so
Oh, and
fun.
so the blue and green, Rebecca says that hers has sprayed edges. The blue and green has sprayed edges. That's so
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. That was such a fun like process to work on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if the paperback will be a different color. Sometimes they'll do that.
I am just looking at the paperback. I think that there might be like concepting. I don't know how to, you know what I mean? But
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and I think it might be a different color or maybe a slightly different design. So that'd be fun. Yeah.
We got Lisa Kennedy coming to us from Alberta, Canada. So you've got a
Oh,
Hi.
paper.
fellow Canadian.
Oh, hello.
And someone
I
said that
love
June
it.
needs to relax. I think she's pretty relaxed.
Yes. Yes, she
She'll
is.
move
I
after a
love
little
it.
bit.
Special guest, June. Well, I'll
Yes.
go ahead and get started. And we are so excited to talk to Natalie Sue today. If you are new to us, we are Fabled Book Club, and we have the opportunity to talk to authors every month. This month, we get to talk to Natalie Sue, a debut author, about her book. I hope this finds you well. Just so you know, in case you were not aware, spoilers abound. We are talking about the ending in this particular book club. So if you need to leave and watch this later, we will send you a recorded video about 24 hours from this. When it ends, you will see that in your email from Zoom, so you can go back and watch it and finish the book if you haven't finished it yet. I know several people in our office who are trying to finish it and in time. If you have any questions for Natalie, you can put it in the chat, or you can put it in the Q&A, and we'll try to get to it as we talk to her with our own questions. And if you guys don't mind sticking around for the very end, we will announce our next book club for next month. So welcome, Natalie. I'll have Elizabeth introduce you.
Yes, and I'm Elizabeth Barnhill, the book buyer at Fabled, and of course Allison is one of the co-owners.
Yes, I never introduced myself.
I know.
Hello.
I just thought, yes, normally we do that, but that's okay. All right. So Natalie Sue is a Canadian author of Iranian and British descent. She spent her formative years moving around Western Canada with a brief stint in Scotland, where she discovered her passion for storytelling as a means of connection and reading as a means of comfort. When she's not writing, she enjoys binging great and terrible TV, attempting pottery, and procuring houseplants. She lives in Calgary with her husband, daughter, and dog. I Hope This Finds You Well is her debut novel, and we love debut novelists. We love celebrating debut novelists and really lifting them up and hoping to spread the word about their fantastic books. And as Allison said, I normally read these books months in advance, but I was able to read it yesterday. I picked it up in bed yesterday morning. I woke up and I didn't get out of bed till I finished the book. So it was wonderful. And we're so excited to have you with us tonight, Natalie.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and honored. Thanks.
Great. Well, I would love to hear first where the idea for the book came from.
Oh, so that is a sort of funny story. It first started with I used to work in an office, obviously, and oftentimes when my friends would go on vacation, I would end up when they come back, I'd update them on the happenings around the office, but instead of mentioning things like, oh, we like new updates on processes or anything, I would sort of be like, well, my office nemesis did this, and here's why they're the worst. And, or someone mistook me for a person who delivers paper, and I kind of went along with it because it just felt natural. So I was just kind of updating them on all the things that had nothing to do with work. And it was such a fun email to write. And so that was when I really kind of noticed that, like just how much I enjoyed writing that type of thing. And then I started sharing it with people that didn't work in my office. And that's when I noticed how many people really, really relate to and work with similar people and or work in a similar environment, and just how universal those kinds of places are. And then I was also having a Teams chat once, and it was with one of my work friends, and it wasn't very like as professional as it could be. And I saw that disclaimer that says, "Oh, everything that is like mentioned over the communications of the company is not really all that private, you know, like it's kept in a record somewhere." And I worked for the government, so I think it was kept for quite a long time. And I was super worried that someone would like read that and call me into a meeting and be like, here's all the things that you said that were inappropriate. And it would just, I was horrified by this thought. And then I thought, what if that same information got put to the wrong hands? And then I thought of a character that would be the worst person to get that info. And that's how Jolene came to be.
Love it.
Well, you said you worked, in an office environment. Did you, what made you jump to writing? Or did you always want to be a writer, or,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. I worked in an office for a long time, but I wanted to be a writer maybe just as long as I was in that office. I think I was in that office for about 10 years. And um, I was always kind of attempting to write, but it was never really about offices. It wasn't even adult writing. So I think I had written about 3 manuscripts before I wrote this one. And then I wrote this one when I was actually working very remotely. I think I had a weird like missing of the office at the time. So yeah.
That's so interesting. One of my favorite parts, which you kind of alluded to a little bit, was when Jolene got caught. Now, I wouldn't say this was everyone's favorite part, because I have friends that have very bad secondhand embarrassment and they can't even handle it. But when she got caught about putting her real thoughts in white ink, which I have to say, I was like, oh, that's so clever. And I mean, of course I did do it, but I was like, I never thought about that. Where did you get that idea?
Yeah, I keep wondering this because I get asked this, and I'm not 100% sure, but I have my suspicions that it comes from my college days when, like back then, the professor would say something like, the essay should be this many length words, and I would put like some sort of like just random words at the bottom and change them to white, and it would still make the word
I
count in the header. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
My trick
so
was you put it
I
in the
think.
font Courier. That was I would have
Oh,
loved to have your trick. Courier was like bigger, or so you could, if you had page count, that would work, but not word count. But that is hilarious. I love that.
yeah, I think that's where it came from. Like, I don't specifically remember like a time doing that, or but yeah, I think it's something like that. Yeah.
That's incredible. I love
I know.
Oh my goodness.
I wonder, it probably wouldn't work now because people have like dark mode. So like
Yeah,
the white would show.
yeah, I
And not
think.
that I would do
And
it.
like
I just
now, like
thought it
back
wouldn't
then,
work.
I was saved because we would hand in carbon copies still then, and now I think it's like e-headed like assignments,
That's
you know.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Funny.
So funny.
Well, one thing I was struck by in this novel was this idea that there were so many people in this office who were lonely and who were really suffering, needing some human connection. But how I really kind of struggled with that line of professionalism, and what do we owe our coworkers? Do we need to be that human connection for our coworkers? Or do we need to keep it professional and just get our job done and leave? So, have you ever thought about that, Natalie, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for reality, I think that it probably would be. I personally would be a little bit more comfortable with it being a little bit more pulled back than as far as Jolene gets with her coworkers, especially with the way she goes about them. But at the time I was writing it, it was also a time where um, I was sort of struggling with the future of my job, and I felt like it wasn't the right fit, and I think there was a lot of elements to it, but a part of the elements were the people I worked with, and um, I was just trying my best to sort of increase my empathy for them. And so I think that at the time I was writing it, I was also sort of channeling some empathy. And so through via these characters and just sort of, I think, but in reality, maybe you wouldn't want to get as sort of involved with your coworkers in that way, especially in the ways that Jolene goes about it. Like she was such a fun character to write because she goes so much further than I would ever want to take things. And so as a writer, that's so fun. But in my reality, I'm a lot kind of different from her in that way. Yeah.
That's really funny. When I pull this book off the shelf with the pink, sometimes people think it's a romance. And so when I hand it to people, I'm like, this is not a romance, but it has a romance in it. And I love that that Jolene works through grief, and in it, like there's some hard things in this book, but there's that the element of romance. And I have to admit, like in the beginning, I did not see Cliff as the romance character, but it was such a fun surprise. Did you set out to have the romance from the beginning, or did that just kind of come to you?
That sort of came to me, although I will say, so how I work is I like to write a chapter and a bit of an outline at first. And the first chapter usually, or at least with this book, stayed the same. Like it didn't change very much from the very first draft. And so when I wrote her meeting Cliff in that first chapter, I knew he would for sure be a significant shake up in her life. I knew something about them would be like a close friendship. I just wasn't sure because he was HR. I wasn't sure where I would take it, but I also kind of, I think I wrote the attraction like where she checks out his forearms right for the first draft and stuff. So I also kind of felt like there was an attraction there, but yeah, I wasn't sure how far I would take with them until I wrote it. And then I think through like after the first draft, I had written sort of a love story, but it wasn't quite hitting some of the arcs or like the beats of a romance. And then I reworked that a little bit through the process of editing it. Yeah.
So fun.
One of the things I love in a book is a character like Jolene, who is the one we were really rooting for, but she's very, very flawed. I mean, again, it's that secondhand embarrassment with Jolene. And really,
Yes.
all of the characters are very, very well thought out, and they're not just good or bad. I mean, what was it like to write these characters in such a nuanced way?
Thank you so much. That means a lot to hear that because I love writing people so much. And I feel like when I started writing, I just sort of didn't expect to want to explore the characters as much. Like I knew there'd be an ensemble cast and that they would sort of have like arcs, but then like throughout it, I just kind of kept digging deeper and deeper into the side characters, and it was just so fun and satisfying to sort of see their arcs revolve and stuff. So yeah, that to me the characters just mean like just when I'm writing I tend to fall in love with my characters so much, and I still kind of think of them in a weird way, like I'm like I hope Rhonda's doing okay, you know. Yeah.
It's just so interesting that at the beginning of the book, I just couldn't, I was so angry with all of them. I just thought they were just, ugh. And then at the end, I was like, oh, now I understand where they're coming from. And I was kind of rooting for all of them. So good job.
Oh, thank you so much. That means so much.
Do you ever fear that anyone that you worked with is going to read the book and see themselves in any of the characters? Like when you work in an office?
I actually am pretty close with a lot of the people I worked with, and I invited quite a few of them to my launch, and they all came. And I did, but the thing is, I felt okay about it because there wasn't really anyone that I had fully stolen it, like from life in a way. Like I felt like there was no like buddy that I felt fearful about, if that makes sense. Although there was like very much like things about the office that I feel like my former colleagues would recognize, just sort of the cultural things more so, but the actual people Maybe like there was a comment or two that I may have taken from, but it would be hard to trace. So yeah.
It really is such a shared experience because I think I've worked in an office and seen, I like feel like I read those characters. I was like, oh, I know them. They're like bits and pieces of people I've worked with and their behavior and their frustrations. But more than that, this book was funny to me. And I would think it's hard to write comedy in a book that it's going to deal with some things. What's your approach on that? How do you set out to write something funny, or does it just come to you, or are you surprised that people think it's funny?
Yes, that's a great question because whenever I was writing before, I was writing things like suspense, but I would put in a few jokes and then it just didn't quite work the same way. And I realized that maybe I should be writing something that would be more open with the jokes. And so when I tried this, I really, really did start with wanting to write more of a comedy. But then as I dove into the characters and their lives and some of the emotional truths that would have made, like when I thought about what makes them this way, that's when things kind of got a little bit more complex with the characters. And so for me, I think that comedy is just such a nice coping mechanism in general. And when I feel awkward or a little bit sad, sometimes I do tend to make a joke. And I think that's just always been sort of my way. But I also really don't want to flatten any of the harder emotional stuff with it. So it's more about like sort of amplifying all the emotions and sort of exploring it on that spectrum. And I find sometimes the comedy could almost enhance the darkness in a way, but it's very trial and error when I try and meet that balance. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think it was a challenge. I want to ask Hannah's questions, who is in the chat. She has to hop off, so she wanted to ask her question. An obvious comp for this book is The Office, which is exactly how I pitch it to people. It's kind of like, to me, I was like, it's The Office and Anxious People kind of together. Of course, there's some similarities, but also was reminded of the TV shows Ted Lasso, Parks and Rec, Community. Were you inspired by any of these TV shows? And I remember you in your bio saying that you love to watch TV. So was any of those kind of the basis for this plot?
I definitely think so. I love all workplace comedies. I just love anything where it's sort of a forced proximity, uh, like diverse cast of characters that comes from like all walks of life sort of forced together. I just feel like there's so much to dig into, so much can happen with that. And so I love all the shows you listed and you especially like office comedies. Like I'm really into Mythic Quest right now. And another one I think I've been recently watching was Unstable, which is another sort of office comedy. Yeah.
Is that a good one or a terrible one?
Mm. So I kind of binged it all at once and I haven't decided yet like how I feel about it. But I think it's a good sign that I binged it. Like I kept going, but
That's
yeah,
funny.
I'm having trouble finding anything to watch these days. I feel like
I
there's a
know.
bit of a drought. Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
this is kind of segues into my question. Of course, before I worked at Fabled, I was in the medical field, so I really never really worked in an office. But both of my sons are now in the workforce, and they don't work in the office every day. It's remote. It's a lot of it is remote, and I've been listening to news shows about how the office culture is probably never going to be the same again. And do you feel like this book is going to be more of a nostalgia read or more of a nostalgia for the office and the office space and these type of shows that may be very dated now that the pandemic has kind of taken away working in an office every single day? That's part one of the question. And I also wonder, is this good or bad? Is it good to not have to be like this forced proximity to people who annoy you or people you need to be kind of professional with?
Yeah, I definitely think that like at the time I was writing it, I think it was 2021 when I started it, and so it was pretty remote still, and we weren't sure. I like at the time I didn't think that we would ever go back to an office, but I also didn't think that this would ever be published. I just wasn't used to my things getting published, so it was really more of a personal, like I still like queried it and wanted it to be published, but when I was writing it at the time, I wasn't thinking about that. But now, um, now I'm just not like I think it was last night someone called it like historic fiction for the 2019 era, and I was like,
Wow.
yes, I guess it is, because it
Oh
really
my gosh.
truly is.
That's
Yeah,
frightening.
Yes.
and I do think that it is better to like to have at least the option to not be in the office every day for the world. Like I think a lot of the frustrations with workplaces can stem from that. And I think even at the time I was writing it, we were sort of like, they were sort of putting us back in the office, but like on a rotation basis. And at the time I was wondering about my colleagues more because it felt very like a sad version of the office of what it used to be. And I think that was also a weird like nostalgia for the like
Right.
office, but even though like it was nice to kind of have a quieter office too. Yeah.
Kai in the chat wrote, did you have to do any research, any psychology or sociology to best represent the multiple personalities you were balancing in the characters? Or do you just write them from firsthand experiences with people?
That's a great question. I didn't do any research like on the psychology of characters other than I always consult like my like emotional wounds book, and just sort of that type, like some more of the craft books on characters, but I never really did any research. But a lot of the sort of emotional truths from that some of the characters go through, I've personally experienced. So like if not the same way, but if I've experienced grief, I can lend an emotional truth to it in a different way, or anxiety and panic attacks, I can definitely give my personal emotional truth on that. So um, for that kind of thing, it was sort of picked from my life, or in my previous job, I did work with a lot of victims of crime and traumas. And so I don't know if it's so much that I pulled from it, but I understood kind of what some of them have gone through and what they had shared. Yeah.
That's great. Have you gotten any feedback about kind of the office experience that you wrote from readers? Have they said anything specific to you about kind of that culture?
Like I really love how much the readers reach out to me and say like, oh, I worked in this exact office. I'm actually surprised how often that happens, and it's lovely like how many people have connected with it. But yeah, I get quite a few like, I wish I could work with you because you know exactly what it's like. And yeah, I'm sorry that we all have similar experiences too, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. I feel like there
Well,
should be a support group for weird office experiences for people. We all can
Yeah,
have
there should
stories.
be like an online like, yeah, forum or something where like event.
Yes,
I'm sure there is. I just haven't looked into it. Yeah.
there probably is. It's true.
Yeah.
well, I would love to talk to you. What about just being a debut novelist? This is your only time this is going to happen. And
Yeah.
wow, this has done amazingly well. I know I'm in a lot of forums and talk to a lot of groups in the book world, and this book kept coming up over and over and over again this summer. You were in People magazine. So what has this
Yes.
been like? Your just meteoric rise in the book world after your debut novel? And I have to say, I've laughed. You know, I read the book yesterday, and since then I have received 2 emails that have had the words, "I hope this finds you well," and I don't think that will ever hit the same way
Yep.
again.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people on my team, whenever they email me, they make that joke because it's just I feel like I've ruined it for a lot of people, and I'm so sorry because
That's
it was such
hilarious.
a nice way to reach out to people and kind of like be friendly, like hello, like I really want to, because I genuinely do hope it finds people well when I email them. But yes, and thank you so much. Yeah, it's just been such a, like, I'm so grateful, and such a like shock, sort of how it's perceived, because I'm not used to that either, having previously tried, and so it's just been so wonderful, and the experience has been so nice. Just every little first is such a cool thing, like hearing from a reader, or even like hearing from like multiple readers. It still means just like so much to me that someone picked up my book without knowing me, and just seeing it in the stores, or seeing it, like everything means so much, and it's just so cool.
Well, and I have rarely read books from an Iranian perspective. Was Jolene, is that a similar experience with you? It was your mother is Iranian, I guess, and your father
Mm-hmm.
British? Is that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So uh, I definitely incorporated the culture of that. Like like Jolene has basically the exact same cultural dynamic in her household as me, and I think that I did that like really out of an affection for the culture and for the reader, whether or not we share a culture. Like if I wanted to introduce my culture to the reader if they were interested, or if we do share a culture, sort of be in on the joke with them, because I was thinking about how often, when you're from a culture that's not like the majority, how often you're wondering, like, is this just my family, or is this like my culture? And so there's certain elements that I actually thought were just like my family, and then I realized that it's like all Persian people do this, or like even with my dad, like I didn't realize like all British people are so, like, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I
Or
love
like
that.
not all British, but like it's a big
Right.
cultural thing. Yeah.
I want to combine two questions from the chat. Rebecca and Joelle, they talk about what Jolene went through, kind of the trauma in her past, and how first why you chose that specific trauma for her, and then have you gone through similar situations, or how did you write her emotions on that so well?
Yeah. So I haven't gone through the exact same trauma as Jolene, but I did go through a similar, like, grief wise. I went through a similar grief at a formative age that like that still, like, that really affected kind of me a lot more than I realized at the time, that I had to, like, stuff that I had to work on later on, that I didn't really realize how much it had affected me, in the way that she sort of felt a survivor's guilt, um, and like felt so responsible. I think like it manifested in survival's guilt for me. So that, I think that's sort of where it came from in a lot of ways.
That's great. Oh, is it my turn? Sorry, I asked
Your
you a
turn.
question.
I'm watching you.
Yes. Okay. Well, this is always the question I always love to ask people, and especially since you were a TV girl. If you could cast these characters as with actors in a movie or TV series, who would you choose?
Oh, such a great question. For Jolene, I think about her a lot, and I would truly would love it to be a discovery of someone like new. So like I know that's a bit of a cop out, but I would love to like have like some new unknown character play her. But I feel like they should have a vibe similar to uh, like an Anna Kendrick, or someone very sort of sarcastic, and like that has that deadpan sort of humor.
Mhm.
Yeah, like Aubrey Plaza type of, like, a vibe. Yeah, for sure. And then um, for Cliff, I think it would be fun to have Charlie Hunnam, although I don't know if it would actually be the right match, but that would just
Mhm.
be like fun for me as a writer so much.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't help but think John Krasinski for Cliff. It felt
Yeah,
so right.
I know, but I've thought of that too. But it would just like he's so Jim to me that,
Right.
yeah. But
He was
I do
basically
love,
Jim there. Yes.
yeah, yeah. He's got that nice, like the nice person vibe. Yeah.
doing the right thing, looking out for others.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
Jim. That's so true.
Well, as a book buyer, as a book person, I always want to hear what you like to read. Maybe some of your favorite books. I see the Borrow Life of Frederick Fife right there. That
Oh
one's one
yes.
that, yeah, we're excited
I'm so
about.
excited to read that. I just picked it up yesterday. I
Yes.
was visiting my Canadian publisher, and they were like, pick up books, and I didn't have, like, I only had carry-on space, and so I just took the one book that I was looking forward to and just sort of grabbed it. But right now I'm actually reading a lot of books that aren't out yet, or
Me too.
like, or yeah, and they're not, or they're not published. Like there are friends of be pursuing a publication, so I'm really excited and hopeful for a lot of them. But I'm trying to think of um what I have read recently. I'm oh, it's tough for me to think of all
I know
the
it's hard
recently.
to.
Oh, I just started It's Elementary by Elise Bryant, and it is, I've only like read the first couple chapters, but it's such a good like back to school read because um like it's about like the PTA and stuff, and I feel like it's like so representative of, like, drop off and all the different kind of mom personalities that there are. It seems really fun, so I'm excited to read more of that.
I just read two very, very good Canadian books in this last month. So I would recommend the Treasure Hunters Club.
Treasure Hunters.
It's I think it's Prince Edward Island.
Oh,
And
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Come to the Window, which takes place in 1918 in some like I think Newfoundland, around that
Yeah.
area. So
And Come to the Window.
Come to the Window. I'm
Oh,
in my
cool. Thank you.
yes, Anne of Green Gables phase in the
Oh,
fall,
fun.
so I have to
Oh, yes.
yes.
think about Canadian books. But
That's such a
also,
nice, yeah.
I know. Well, what can we expect from you? Do you have anything in the works coming up, or are you working on your second book?
Yeah, I'm working on the first draft of my second book, and so a lot will likely change from now until publication. But I am really excited about it. It involves an ensemble cast again, and it is set in an apartment building, and I'm excited for to like see all these characters and these again once again it's different types of characters interacting and forced proximity. I guess it's just what I love.
Oh yeah, sounds great. Can't wait to read it. We'll be
Thank you
cheering
so
you
much.
on from the middle of
Thank you
Texas.
so much. Oh, I love that.
Well, thank you so much, Natalie. We appreciate it. I loved this book. I mean, it's seriously one of my favorites this year, and I have loved giving it to people because it really feels like one of those books. We have a phrase here at Fabled that we use. We always want to surprise and delight, and I feel like your book really fits into that category where it's just has depth, but it's funny and there's just romance in it. So it really, really is wonderful. Thank you for writing it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, if you don't mind, we're going to announce our next book club, and I'm going to let Elizabeth do it. And while she does it, I will post in the chat where to register to catch that Zoom, as well as the link to buy the book from Fabled.
Yeah, so our next book club is The Mesmerist, and it's a historical mystery that takes place in Minnesota. It's by Caroline Woods, and it loosely follows the first real serial killer in America. So it's, September is for serial killers. That's what I always say. But this one is really, really good. And it's also women helping women. And I always love that kind of storyline. So this one has just a little bit of everything. It is the sleuth pick this month, book club next month. So you can just kind of tell how much we really loved it at the store.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, can't wait to see you then. And Natalie, thank you again for your time with us.
Thank you so much.
Good
We'll
night.
see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.